A very common psychological phenomenon is often observed in personal relationships, and it is the act of asking others for their opinion on a decision that one has already secretly finalized in advance. It is like showing a picture of someone you are getting to know to your friends and asking if you should pursue them, when in reality, your heart is already infatuated. You have already envisioned a future with a house and children. The question posed at this moment is not to seek advice or critical feedback, but to seek consensus. One needs those nods of approval to reinforce their choice, to feel more reassured that they are doing the right thing. If friends object, they will immediately find ways to defend and justify the other person. Thus, that act of asking for an opinion is essentially just a clumsy play aimed at soothing one's own fear of making a mistake. Applying this mindset to the operations of large organizations, businesses, or government agencies, one sees a similar picture, but on a massive and far more sophisticated scale. These are the processes of bidding, partner selection, or personnel appointment. On paper, everything takes place publicly and transparently. It appears to be a fair race where the best, the cheapest, and the most efficient will win. However, when one takes a scalpel to dissect deep inside, peeling back each thick layer of documentation, a naked truth is revealed. The result is often predetermined even before the bidding documents are issued. So, why the performance? Why waste heaps of money on organizational costs and spend months on evaluation and appraisal processes while the name of the winner is already tucked away in the decision-maker's pocket? The answer does not lie in fairness, but in two words: safety. One must clearly understand the nature of risk management within an organization. When a single individual steps forward to appoint a contractor or a partner, that individual is placing their entire political life and career on the line. If that partner performs well, it is merely a duty fulfilled, nothing overly praiseworthy. But if that partner fails, commits fraud, or causes serious consequences, the finger of public opinion and the law will point directly at the person who signed that appointment decision. At this point, responsibility is singular and undeniable. Risk is concentrated entirely at one point. Conversely, when a bidding process is organized, even if it is merely pro forma, the risk is dispersed. The decision is no longer that of Mr. A or Ms. B, but the result of a bidding evaluation committee, a team of experts, and a process that complies with legal regulations and internal rules. If an error occurs, people will pull out the process to use as a shield. They will say that they followed all the steps, advertised publicly, and scored based on the submitted dossiers. The fault now, if any, will be blamed on limited appraisal capacity or dishonest information provided by the contractor rather than the subjective will of the leader. This is exactly the mechanism of legitimatization. A formalistic bidding process acts as a machine to wash away individual responsibility, transforming the subjective will of one person or a group of people into the collective objective will. The cost incurred to organize the bidding, though it may reach hundreds of millions or billions of dong, is in fact an insurance premium for the seats of the decision makers. Compared to the price of imprisonment or loss of office, this amount is entirely cheap, especially when that money belongs to the organization or the budget, not their own pockets. Going deep into the staging techniques, one sees the bone-chilling sophistication of the directors in the shadows. No one is foolish enough to write the name of the desired contractor directly into the files. Instead, they use technical barriers. This is the art of creating locks that only a single, predetermined key can open. For example, when wanting to buy a lot of computers, instead of explicitly stating brand X, the bidding documents will provide technical specifications that are bizarrely detailed. For instance, stipulating that the machine weight must be exactly 1.25 kilograms, or that a connection port must be located in a specific position, or requiring a rare certificate that only brand X possesses exclusively in the region. These requirements are usually draped in the beautiful cloak of ensuring the highest quality or system compatibility. But in reality, it is a filter to eliminate all potential competitors, clearing a path for the insider to reach the finish line. Another common trick is planting criteria regarding capacity and experience, requiring that a contractor must have performed at least 3 similar projects in the locality within the last 2 years. This sounds very reasonable in terms of risk management, meaning wanting to choose someone with experience. But if one looks closely, in that locality over the past 2 years, there were only a few such projects, and the unit that performed them is precisely the unit being targeted. Inadvertently, this criterion slams the door in the faces of all new contractors, even if they have much stronger financial capacity or far superior technology. Not stopping at technical barriers, the script also needs supporting actors. In the bidding world, they are called shill bidders. These are units that submit dossiers just to make up the numbers, to ensure the regulation that at least 3 contractors participate. These units usually have close relationships with the investor or the designated contractor itself. They submit a sketchy dossier, intentionally quote an astronomical price, or make elementary mistakes like missing a bid bond or an important signature. Their mission is to come and lose, to serve as a backdrop for the winner to shine legally. In return, they will receive a T-money fee or be promised a smaller contract in the future. It is a distorted but sustainable symbiosis. Viewed from an economic perspective, this behavior causes a massive waste of social resources. Instead of choosing the most optimal option in terms of price and quality, the organization chooses the safest option for the individual leader. The winning bid price in these scenarios is usually neck and neck with the package price, meaning the savings for the budget are almost zero. Price competition has been completely neutralized. Where does that price difference flow? It flows into grease costs, into interest groups, and into the pockets of those who laboriously staged this play. However, one cannot deny a harsh reality. Sometimes people must do this because the mechanism is too rigid. There are cases where a leader knows for certain that Unit A is the best, most reputable, and can solve the problem the fastest. But if they appoint them directly, it violates the law, or the process to request direct appointment is too cumbersome, taking months for approval, while the work needs to run immediately. At this point, formalistic bidding becomes a tool to bypass the sluggishness of the administrative apparatus, to legally bring in truly capable people to work. In this case, the motive is not necessarily corruption, but helplessness before a system of regulations that values form over actual efficiency. This is the tragedy of those who want to get things done but are bound by tangled legal strings. But whatever the motive, corruption, or the desire to get work done, the consequence left for the business environment is the erosion of trust. Genuine businesses who naively believe in absolute fairness become pitiful victims. They invest effort, intellect, and money to prepare bid dossiers and research solutions, hoping to win through merit. But they do not know they are participating in a hand of cards that was dealt before they even entered the room. They are merely sacrificial pawns, involuntary spectators serving as the background for the play finale. After a few such instances, they will lose heart, withdraw, or worse, be forced to learn how to become part of that system, accepting backroom deals and acting as shill bidders to survive. The business environment thus becomes murky, stifling the motivation for innovation and development. It is also necessary to further analyze the psychology of those participating in the bidding evaluation committee. Often, they are subordinate employees or invited experts. Do they know the script? Most do, or vaguely guess it through signals from superiors. But why do they still sign? Because of their bread and butter? Because of peace of mind? Opposing the boss's will means excluding oneself from the organization or being isolated. Furthermore, the committee's responsibility is collective. When everyone signs, the fear is divided. A minute with 5 signatures makes each person feel they only bear 1/5 of the responsibility, even if legally that is not quite the case. Herd mentality and obedience to authority have paralyzed the capacity for independent critique. The existence of these formalistic processes is also nurtured by another important factor: a culture that values paperwork over substance. In inspections and audits, people often scrutinize whether the process had enough steps, if the dossier had enough signatures, or if the document followed the correct protocol. Rarely does anyone have the capacity and time to dig deep into why this technical criterion was chosen or why the price was so high. As long as the file is beautiful, complete, and follows the process, it is considered free of violations. It is precisely this way of evaluating based on formal compliance that has created fertile ground for bidding plays to flourish. One only needs to hire professional bidding consultants to make the file beautiful and airtight to be able to sleep soundly. So how can these plays be identified? For keen observers, it is not difficult to see abnormal signs. The time for issuing dossiers is too short, or occurs at sensitive times like holidays to limit buyers. Technical criteria are too detailed, naming a specific product without a justifiable reason. Requirements for key personnel are too strict and irrational, or simply the indifferent, obstructive attitude of the inviting party when a strange unit comes to buy the dossier. These are the invisible, no-entry signs that insiders tacitly understand among themselves. In conclusion, fairness in selection processes, whether bidding or recruitment, is in many cases just a mirage built with money and paperwork. It exists not to find the best, but to protect decision-makers from legal risks and individual responsibility. That is the price of compliance, the hidden cost that society must bear. The advice for those standing before these doors is to observe very carefully. Do not just look at the public welcome sign. Look at the locks on that door. If you see that the lock has been custom designed for a different key, do not waste your strength trying to break it. Accept the truth that this game is not for you. And if you want to change the game, you must have enough strength to smash the entire door. Or be wise enough to become the one holding the key. But remember, when you step into the darkness to compromise, that is also when you lose the right to stand in the light of transparency. In this pragmatic world, naivety is a sin. Understanding the nature of the fairness script is not to become negative, but to know how to protect your own resources, so as not to turn yourself into a daylight sleepwalker, believing in things that are not real. Seeing through the naked truth is the first step to maturing and surviving in a society operated by the interests and safety of those in power.